right, on Radio Mini 88.3 FM, the Catholic radio station for all, my dear listener, into the final hour of Radio Mini Soul Food, 16 minutes past 9 o'clock. Thank you so much for staying tuned to Radio Mini 88.3 FM, my dear listener. And as I told you earlier on, that due to the mechanical hitch that Mr. Wahome experienced this morning, we now shift our matters, finances, money matters Tuesday to now. Okay, so stay in there from now all the way to 10. And if you have a question, 0712 2333885 is the SMS line, or on Facebook page Radio Mini 88.3 FM. What are we talking about here, my dear listener? There is a quiet pressure that many people don't talk about enough. The building of a life, or a life for two, but doing it on one income. All right? Not because it is ideal, but because it is real. And maybe one partner is between jobs, raising children, studying, or simply the numbers aren't adding up yet. So the question still remains, my dear listener, how do you dream, plan, and still breathe when one income is carrying the weight? So today on Money Matters Tuesday, my dear listener, we are dealing with this particular topic, and Mr. Wahome is here to help you understand even more. A very good morning to you, Mr. Wahome.
Morning to you, Brahman.
Yes, how have you been?
I've been quite well. Thank you for the patience.
Yes.
We talked about contingencies.
Contingencies, exactly.
Yes, and for some reason the car did not want us to come to the studio. A small thing, then the technical guy says it's a fuse. And now because of this fuse, we can't go.
Look at that.
And so a contingency, but we thank God that we are here.
All right.
And we are happy to come and have this discussion, just like you mentioned, when one income has to support two futures.
Exactly.
That's the discussion we have today.
All right. So, karibu sana, Mr. Wahome. A very interesting conversation we're going to be having. But first things first, I know on Tuesdays you're always having something for us. So kindly, as you're introducing yourself, remind us as well.
Thank you. It's a good season. A lot of good rains. Yeah, the schools are back. And now children are back. We're doing international schools are doing their exams.
Yeah.
We say best of luck. Yes, today we have the master class, and the master class is one of the ways that we enable people to have a good relationship with their money. We use structured literacy programs. So tonight we have a very, very interesting discussion. We are saying we need to sharpen our saw for wealth creation.
Yeah.
A lot of times when we say sharpen and saw, a lot of people have never even seen how they sharpen the saw. They know the saw, but how they sharpen it?
Yeah.
And that's the discussion we are saying. How does that relate? Because we have to equip ourselves to be able to deal with the issues. All the things that we discussed last time, we need to be able to build our capacity. And we are saying, how do we do that capacity building? What are the resources? What do I need to look at? What things do I maybe need to understand so that then I can say I am doing well? So we have a training session today at 7 in the evening. This is a virtual class, so it's on Zoom. And like we traditionally do, we have free slots, so we want to invite people. If you just want to come and have a feel, you're welcome. You can join us today at 7 in the evening. All you do is express your interest, and expressing your interest is simple. You text or you WhatsApp 0708-150-137, 0708-150-137, and somebody on the other side is going to be able to help you out with the necessary link. So I think it's a good time for us here, Bramwell, and our listeners. We talked about why we need to do contingency planning, because we say the emergencies are normal. They're not rare. Yeah. I've had mine this morning.
Exactly.
And most families are one crisis away from financial stress. And we said, issues of family salary delays are common. We see this all the time. Rent increases when you had a not anticipated rent increase, or sometimes you have to move house quickly. We've seen with the flooding. We have to move house very quickly. With the rains, the leaking roof.
Yeah.
And you didn't anticipate the leaking roof. Some bad days come, this family breakdown, and somebody has to go and live into another place, or had said car breakdown until it happened to me. We have medical emergencies, and so there's need to have a contingency plan. And in our discussion last time, we said, yes, I need to save money that can adequately address my expenses for a 3-month period, and we start small. If I can only afford 50 shillings, that's where I'll start, but I'll be consistent. So that then we don't mix this with our daily spending. We say, let's keep a bit of it in the bank or lock it in the phone. Let's put it in a money market fund. And let's also have social capital. We also need to have people, maybe in the chama, who can help us to deal with those things out there. So the key message here is emergencies are part of life. And preparation reduces stress and protects our dignity. If you're not, if you're not able to move from where you are, you might have to find some indignity. So planning doesn't stop emergencies, but it will stop them from breaking our family. I think that's where we are. So that today we want to change, and we want to talk about something interesting, because in Kenya, one-income households are very common.
Yeah.
But usually it doesn't happen by accident. It's often a result of maybe sometimes we are practical, sometimes it's cultural, sometimes it's economic realities. And the key is not just why it happens, but how families plan around it, so that it doesn't become a long-term financial vulnerability. We don't feel vulnerable as a family. Because there are very many common causes for one-income families. When I'm saying about one income, I'm looking at a family setup where there's a man and wife, and maybe one of them is not able to work, and there are many reasons. Part of it is maybe we want to raise our children differently, so families decide that one parent stays at home and becomes a homemaker. So that, because childcare costs in cities like Nairobi can be very high, sometimes we have issues around trust and quality for our nannies and daycare. Sometimes we have special children, so somebody has to step aside. And often one salary would mostly go into childcare anyway because of that cost. So sometimes people say one person, and normally that's the mother, they exit from employment, so they can actually fit in that. So we are taking care of the children, and so somebody has to stay at home. Now the other one is obviously unemployment or underemployment. We have a very, very high unemployment rate, our job insecurity. People lose jobs. The two of you had jobs, one has lost a job, and sometimes it takes long to find work to do, and so it forces people to shift into informal or inconsistent income. And so one stable income has to carry the household. This is stable, so we're going to pay the rent, we're going to be able to do all this. There are times when this career prioritization, and couples may consciously choose for one person to focus on a demanding career, or sometimes go back to school, and the other one supports the home and family logistics. These are common in careers that require long hours or long travel. I can imagine one person is a pilot and they have to keep flying A to B, and so the other person has to focus on the family. So it is the income becomes concentrated in one person because of those choices. Sometimes we choose for somebody to go back to school for 2 years, 3 years, and know they have to commit full time maybe to do the schooling. It might be demanding what schooling that they're getting into. We have sometimes one income families come from health or disability or even death. Chronic illness or disability can limit one's partner's ability to work. So there are times when somebody is not able to work because they are not feeling well, they have health issues. And there are times when we become caregivers. We've seen people who have to leave work to go and take care of elderly parents. It says honor your father and your mother. And parents get to this point when somebody has to step out to go and take care of them. Or sometimes we have special children and we have to take care of special children. The result is one partner becomes the primary earner, and the other one has to support. We live in Africa, and we have culture, and we have cultural norms. And in some communities, the women stay home because that's their culture. So traditionally, this influences the decisions people take. And so one partner, maybe the wife, stays home to manage the house. So a one-income structure becomes the default. There are cultures like that. I know there are people who struggle with that, but we need to understand we have diversity in this country. We also have migration and work relocation. One partner may move to go and work in a different country. And so the person left behind now, you have to take care of the children, drop them to school and do this or do the other one, so that the other one stays home to take care of the children. And the result is financial dependence goes to the working partner because the other one has to be there. We have bad days of family breakdown. we have separation, we have divorce. You know, one partner moves out because of family breakdown, and maybe to a different house, to a different estate, to a different county, to a different country. And so one is left with children. And so while there were two incomes, it becomes one income. So financial dependence now becomes the issue of the person who's left with children. And we see in these cases where the one who left does not even care about children. So there are so many reasons how a family can actually end up with one income, but then you have to be able to finance two futures. So we want to say, how do people plan? How do people cope around this? Because it is a reality of life, and for those who it has not happened, they cannot say this will not happen to us. So the issue is not having one income. It is failing to structure life around that reality. You know, we must structure our life around that reality. And so one of the bigger things is to treat the household like a financial partnership. We make it like a partnership. So both partners know the money issues. What's our income that we're dealing with? What are our expenses? What are our debts? What are our investments? And they participate in decision making. This is very, very important, so that we avoid one person being stuck in the dark. That becomes a big danger when one person is in the dark. Yeah, they may not be the one earning. They are spending the money, and they are not questioning how much there is. So they are spending without knowing. Their debts, maybe one person is providing the money, but they're actually borrowing it to provide it. And so the other party is not aware about that. So it is important to treat this household like a partnership, and so that both partners are very clear. What income do we have? What are expenses? What debts are we having? What are investments? And so they also participate in decision making. When a lot of times in the master class we say it's very beneficial when people come in as a couple, because they get to understand a wide range of things. And in my practice, I've handled very difficult situations. We said one of the causes of separation is the accident, disability, and death. And you find, this person is gone. The other person is simply in the dark. They have no idea how things were being done. The money may be there. They're not even sure where is it. You know, they are not sure what the investments are, and you can actually see the danger. So that's one important area that we can be able to do. We need to work as a partnership. We make the decision together that one person steps out of work, or we've been forced by circumstances, but in terms of money, we make sure that we are able to discuss everything. Now, the other thing that's important is to create financial independence for the non-earning partner. This person is not earning. But it is important that they have their personal bank account. They have their own money, you know. They have a mobile account, some money that they can control on a monthly basis. They can make decision on, not asking for every coin. You know, they want to do this, give me the money. They want to do this, give me the money. And this is where, traditionally, you had the word budget. This is where budget came from. Obviously, years back, it was men who worked. And so he would bring in the money and leave it with the lady. And it is the lady who had all those small bahashas. This is for food, this is for this is for this, and that's where budgeting came from. So the person who is not earning needs to have some money that they can control, including money that is their own. They can decide what to do with it. They don't have to consult on everything. If somebody decides, I want to buy a new shoe or a new dress, or I want to go out for coffee, then that should not be a big thing, because that builds dignity and it reduces power imbalance. Because money creates a lot of power imbalance. So if the other person has the money, they have their own dignity. They can actually do some things without asking all the times. And it reduces that power imbalance, and that is very, very important. So let's consider how we can get the non-earning partner, open a bank account, have access to some money, maybe some M-Pesa account, have some money that they can control on a monthly basis that is ideally their own money. That becomes very, very important. The other step that's critical is to build a savings and emergency fund. I think we cannot re-emphasize this. All the issues we talked about last time will also happen in a one-income setup, and they becomes more devastating when they're in a one income if there's no preparation. So having some emergency fund, I mean, can you imagine it's one income and it is delayed? you can see the consequences. It is one income, and it actually doesn't come tomorrow. That becomes very, very devastating. So we need to keep funds that we can easily access in a money market fund, because this is going to protect us against shocks like job loss, like illnesses. Because, if it is on one person earning, and they are not able to go to work, now the whole family is down. Yeah. And that's why we need to have these emergency funds, and both parties are involved. Very, very important, we consider. Now, the other thing is to invest together. Invest together. Yes, this I think is very, very critical. Yes, we want to invest in the circle, but nothing stops us from being together in that circle. We can actually both invest in the circle. We're looking at, we have a money market fund, and we are both investing in that money market fund. We bought a government bond, and we are together in that government bond. At the moment, I think it's IMM Bank have a bond. We are investing in that bond. So, properties. So we don't put everything under one person, because if circumstances change, that becomes very, very, very difficult. So both partners should be able to build assets. And surprisingly, the person who may not be so engaged at work, assume the case where somebody is in Dubai and the other one is here. The one who is here is able to check that things are working properly. So that's why they need to get involved in those things, so that they can actually be able to check. Another important component is to protect the income with insurance. In this case, insurance becomes very, very, very important. So we have some critical insurance covers that we should have in a situation where we have one income that has to support two futures. Life insurance for the breadwinner is compulsory here, because should anything happen, God forbid, now we will need some income replacement. We need a readjustment fund. We need to have something called an immediate estate, because it is going to take time for this one person left to be able to run their own, especially if they are not the breadwinner, because now they have to start becoming the breadwinner. It is important to have medical insurance, health insurance for the entire family, because if you have one income and you bogged down by somebody's medical bills, then that can become very, very devastating. And for the breadwinner, we say, they need to have like personal accident insurance or disability cover. That's important. And in a setup like this, SHA is not optional. We might have all the debate whether SHA works or SHA doesn't work, but here it is not optional. It's always an important thing. So for one income, the risk is higher. If things go wrong, the risk is much, much higher than where there are two incomes. And that is why it is important to build some protection, so that we are actually able to get there. The other important thing is to build a financial footprint for both partners. The non-earning partner should have some credit history. They need to pay some bills and accounts in their name. It's very interesting when you start going, maybe you want to go outside the country and you're asking for a visa, and they'll actually ask you for a bill in your name. They want to see you're a solid citizen, and completely nothing is in your name. And so that's when we talk about credit history, this is what we are looking at. And should the other person not be there, it becomes very difficult for this other one to move when they have no credit history alone. They may not be able to go to the bank and get a loan. They are not able to do transactions. So some sort of independence needs to be there, so that the other person has some footprint. And that's why we said, we'll open an account for them. We'll have some properties in their name. And the other very, very key one is to keep future earning potential alive for this person. Take the case where we've decided the lady will stay home and bring up the children. But it is good to encourage this person to keep themselves active. Maybe take courses. And nowadays there are so many online courses you can take, so it is not a big thing. You can run some small business, you can actually be able to run a business that's not going to take all the time, some freelancing, some consulting, because even that small income that creates more flexibility and keeps them alert and well. So that's another very, very critical thing. If I say one more thing, it is good to plan legally and structurally, because it is important to appreciate that the disputes can arise, and partners need to protect each other. When you're saying partners need to protect each other, we're saying it is important in a situation like this to understand issues around property ownership. And this is where we have to ask, do we do joint ownership? Do we own properties? Are we tenants in common? Do we set up a trust to be able to run this property? And whatever decision is done, we need to have proper documentation. Proper documentation, because we have seen, and I think in this country we have, I think it's an association of widows, and normally when they meet, you're going to hear the pain of getting disinherited by other family members. And a lot of this comes because there was no documentation. So it is important to think about property ownership, maybe think about a will, document major assets clearly, who has the title deed, who has this, because that presents disputes and that protects both partners, which is very, very important while we are there. So this, you can actually see there are a couple of many steps that we can actually be able to take. So having one income is not a problem. The problem is when only one person has financial power, they have financial visibility, and they have security. So that's what we want to distribute to others. And I know you might have a question, but before I take your question, I have a few, in the course of this discussion, I went back and said, have I dealt with this? Yes, and I saw a couple of cases I've dealt, and I wanted to share those stories.
Okay,
yeah.
And you're gonna be sharing those stories, Mr. Wahome. You know, you answered. Actually, you read my mind while you are emphasizing on the first point. All right, that we need to avoid keeping the other partner in the dark, because I really wanted to ask you, when you meet couples living on a single income, what is the first mistake you see them make?
Just having one person in the dark.
Okay.
And being in dark disempowers people. You know, there are people who they'll come into the discussion, but they are quiet. It's like they're not part of this discussion. And every question that comes, they're looking to the other person to answer that question. And then you realize how obviously the situation is, maybe they don't know what is the income. They don't know how the expenses are, because it's sort of like a trickle down. If you want to buy sugar, I'll give you money for sugar. If tomorrow you want to go to the market, I'll ask you how much do you need, and I'll give it to you. And that goes on even to assets and properties. Or we have this property in Kitengela. Where is it? One person is blank. They have no idea. They have no paperwork. Do we have a pension scheme? They have no idea whether there's a pension scheme. Where is the medical scheme? You know, when you ask all those questions, you realize one person is totally in the dark. And when one person is in the dark, you weaken the whole structure. You weaken the whole structure. If the other person was in the know, I think it would be much better. So it is one of the most critical things is we treat it as a financial partnership. If you are running a business as a partnership, we sit and look at everything. This is the revenue that comes in. These are the expenses that we have. These are the plans we have. And that makes it very, very necessary. Because, and I'm sure you heard marriage therapists say, this is a long-term partnership. We're not living it tomorrow. And you know what? The pendulum swings. I know you did physics.
Exactly.
Yes, it is this person who has the income. And sometimes the pendulum swings, now the other person has the income.
Yes.
And we see in ugly situations where people say, now, when you had the income, this is how you treated me. So I'll pay you back. And you see, that is not beneficial at all.
All right. And let's talk about the feeling that is attached to it, because money is emotive. Listen to this question from Esther from Jericho. Says, my question is, if you are the one earning and your partner isn't bringing in income yet, how do you avoid feeling like all the financial responsibility is on you without it turning into pressure or even resentment over time?
The possibility of it turning into pressure, turning into resentment is always there. The question is, let's go back. Why are we in this situation where one person is not able to bring in the income? And that becomes critical. If we are the people we decided, we looked at the issues here and we said, no, to take care of our children, maybe to do this and this, you stop working. Then how then can you start feeling like they are doing the wrong thing, yet is a decision we have taken? We have looked at our situation and we said, from where we are, I need to go leave the country, go to Dubai or whatever, and then look for something to do, but please, now it seems the needs of the family cannot be met by house help, so stay and run. So if you make the decision together, and that decision that results in one person having one income, then obviously that feeling isn't there. But there are many times it is forced on you. The person lost the job. there's almost nothing they would have done to find a job.
Yeah.
And that is exactly why we're doing contingency planning. We have an emergency fund. That means for about 3 months or 6 months, the pressure will not be there. Yet they now have the opportunity to maybe get a job or get something else to do. Marriage is actually a partnership. Work has to be done.
Yeah.
Supporting each other is part of the bigger work. Unless you're in a situation, yes, we've seen the situation where the other partner is so comfortable, so contented, they don't mind watching a series the whole day.
Exactly.
Then if that happens, obviously the other person is going to feel used.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's going to feel they're holding the short stick of it. But the thing is, that partnership is not working. So the issue is not the money. The issue is there are other things that they are not able to do together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you explain that, what I'm hearing, Mr. Wahome, is we need to be very keen, because at some point, the finances and the communication have to intersect.
Not sometime, all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Okay.
Not sometime, all the
All
time.
the time.
They have to intersect.
Yes.
Remember, and we say this times and times again, money is just a tool. Money is just a resource. What we do with it now will be dependent on how did we take the decisions.
Right.
So, and we do not want to have we cannot have a strong partnership where one person is not empowered.
Yeah.
That will not work.
Right.
So it's not like a senior and a junior. Now we're talking about partners, and partners come with equality. Yes.
Okay. Now listen to this one. Hi, Mr. Wahome. I wanted to ask, is it a bad idea to take a big commitment like loans or a mortgage when you are single income household, or is there a smart way to approach that?
No, there's nothing wrong if the monies can afford. Just that, remember what you said, there's a higher risk.
Yeah.
So we must be able to identify the risk and manage that risk. We're saying, yes, we've taken a mortgage, which is okay. Because any day, we're either paying the mortgage or we're paying the rent. If the income didn't come, both of them will have consequences.
Yeah.
If you don't have rent, what will happen? If you don't have money to pay the mortgage, what will happen? Those are the questions we are asking. Exactly. So all you're saying is here, we cannot stop making progress because one person is not bringing in an income. It is a question of looking at the situation and saying, what are the risks? How do we manage these risks?
Yeah. And also, I feel the next question you had answered when you talked about creating financial independence, but you can respond to Wanjiku as well. Yeah, she says, in a situation where one partner stays home with the kids, how do you still make sure they feel financially included and not like they have to ask for the money all the time?
Yes, and I think we talked about them getting some financial independence, money that is theirs to manage. That's why we're sitting maybe at the end of the month or whatever time, we're looking at the family budget. We need X for this money, and this is the money that we need for all those things. Then in that case, you don't have to ask for money every day, money for milk, money for what? No. The other thing is we say they need to have their own money, their own money. Even in two-income families, we always say everybody needs to have their own personal money.
Exactly.
That they do not even have to consult the other party about that money. How much is a question of an agreement between the parties, okay? So that, I mean, there are things I want to do, and I do not want to start feeling guilty. I mean, I've met my former schoolmates, and I bought them lunch. Why do I have to go and explain that? You know, I have met a nice outfit, and I thought this is good for me. I should be able to do that. Again, life cannot be so strict, you know, we have to flee it. So that, consciously, the partner who is earning needs to empower the other one. Yes, need to empower the other one.
All right. You want to share about the experiences?
Yes, very quickly, I think I just want to share a few stories, so that we see the reality. And like I said, these things are common, so it is not something that somebody will say, does it happen? So James is working here in Nairobi. He's actually a banker, and he has a very stable salary. His wife, Mary, was a teacher. And obviously, you know the way they transfer teachers from this school to the other school. When they got the second child, they sat and said, now, this doesn't seem to work. because you see, I have a stable income, I have a good job. Why don't you stop working so that you come and take care of the children? So all the accounts, whether it is the salary, the investment, the circle, they were in James's name. Okay, Mary had to keep asking for money for everything. So she had no savings, no credit history. But there was a turning point, because somewhere along the way, James was retrenched. In fact, I picked this story because when James was retrenched, he was devastated. And he needed financial advice. What do we do here? Okay, and so Mary couldn't step in financially. She had no access to the funds. She did not have anything that should be able to. And so the bigger lesson is, even in a stable home, one shock can expose how unprepared both partners are. Sure. So you actually thought you were in charge, and you did not empower the other person. Then you are in charge. You had the power because you have the money. The money is gone. Yeah. You know, you need the other person. They actually know the ropes in the street.
Exactly.
So that was important. So we obviously had to find a way of, now what do we do in this situation? What are the terminal benefits you're getting? How do we arrange for that? So that's a big lesson that we learned. Of course, the other time, we have got things like the hidden cost of childcare. So Anne and Peter, actually a resident in Kiambu, Anne was earning some 35,000 shillings. When they looked at the cost of childcare, transport, food, it was nearly the same amount of money. So why would you want to go earn 35? But we are paying that for the nanny and all the other things. So they decided that she stays at home. And they got a few things right. Because what Peter did, he actually assigned Anne a fixed salary. You see, like, you're earning 35. So from my account every month, that 35 will come to your account.
Okay.
You will be able to manage that. So, and that way, Anne was able to run a small online business. Okay, and they jointly went into the circle. So staying at home doesn't mean staying financially inactive. You see, because they consciously decided it, they looked at the numbers. Now that was very, very easy for them to do. We had Bran is interesting. Bran and Wanjiko is in Ngari. Bran has actually taken up a job in Saudi Arabia. And all the money goes to Bran's accounts, wherever he is. Wanjiko gets irregular transfers. She asks for 20,000, that is sent. She asks for 10, that is sent. She doesn't know how much is saved. She doesn't know how much Bran is earning. If the remittances stop suddenly, she has no financial visibility or fallback plan. Yeah. Because when you're getting money piecemeal like that, for you it's not for saving. For you it's for expensing. But you don't know whether the other person is saving. And so there was a hard lesson here. And the hard lesson is distance makes transparency even more important. Yes, you are there, but this person needs to know. Yeah. So that they know where we are and where we are not. So it becomes very, very important that we actually take care of that. And I think I have another case where the role of the caregiver was totally ignored. These ones, I think, were in Mombasa. The mother was a stay-home, and this was cultural, by the way. And the father had even bought life insurance. The mother had none of it. Now, when the mother got unwell, remember, she's not working. She has no medical insurance. She has no insurance. Now, obviously, what happens? Now they have to hire a nanny. Yeah. They have to pay extra. And the father has to step in. So he gets reduced working hours. And what happens? Even his income came down. So stay-at-home parent is not free labor. You should never consider it like free labor. And that's why I like the case we said, the husband said, you're earning 35, I'll transfer the 35. Yeah. This is not free labor. It is actually just another critical economic role that somebody is performing. So there's also what we call the silent risk of happy dependence. A couple in Eldoret is married, they've been together for 12 years. The husband handles all the finances, and the wife trusts him. And there's nothing wrong with trusting. But I think we've been told, trust by check. Yeah. There are no joint discussions about the money. Then the husband unexpectedly, in a road accident, died. The wife did not know what to do because there were so many unknowns. And I think she didn't know what are the bank accounts. You got to go look into the house to see what documents are. She did not know what loans this person had. She did not know what properties they actually had. So love without financial transparency can actually become vulnerability.
Yeah.
If you love somebody but you're not financially transparent, that becomes vulnerability, and that can put the family in a lot of problems. So you can actually see these things. People take it lightly, they make a mistake, then things don't work out well. So we need to prepare the future. We need to be ready to help the stay at home. So it reminds me about Susan. She left formal employment to go and take care of her children. But her husband was supportive. She kept on doing small courses here and there, running a small baking business from home, taking online classes. And her husband, who was running a business, it started slowing down. Do you remember those days of COVID? You had a good running business and circumstances changed, but she was able to scale hers. And hers now was able to move because, COVID or no COVID, people needed baking, confectionery, cakes, and stuff like that. It is her business that actually went up. Now you can actually, did I say the pedram things? Pedram,
exactly.
On the other side. So future-proofing the income is very critical for the family, and that's why we need to support the other person. That's why we're talking about it as a partnership. So whether we're looking at the case in Nairobi, Mombasa, different families, but the same truth. One income can support a household, but only a shared financial structure can protect it. One income will support the house, but if we don't have a shared financial structure, that becomes a problem. And that's why from where I sit, I always say we need to be able to take lessons, and maybe take lessons together, so that we learn from each other. And there are all those beautiful programs. I know we've got programs like Marriage Encounter that we talk about on this radio station. And that helps people to actually see the bigger picture. We're not here part-time. We're here full-time. We're here lifelong, actually, to support each other. And the pendulum swings. Interestingly, this is Africa. People tend to marry, the men tend to marry younger wives.
Yeah.
And so there's a chance the man will retire while the wife is still working.
Exactly. That is very true.
There's a chance that she's going to have income. If you hadn't planned your retirement properly, you will have to depend on her income. So you had better make sure that she has some income.
Wow. And that is the reality.
Yeah.
And talking about income, Mr. Wahome, let us bring in the element of the family, other family expectations, because sometimes family expectations don't reduce just because you are on one income.
Yes.
How then do you set boundaries, especially with the extended family, without causing conflict?
I think our younger people, our millennials and Gen Zs, have found a very nice terminology.
Black tax.
So we're talking about black tax.
Exactly.
I think it's borrowed from South Africa or America, but it has come into our English, and it is it's a very debatable subject. And this will happen because, and a lot of people fail to understand this, we people who are socialized to live together. Yeah. That's where we come from. That's our DNA. We are not individualistic, and we struggle with that individualism. Even here in Nairobi, where sometimes you don't get to know your neighbor. That's why the day you meet your cousins, you want to stay there longer. Yeah. Because it is in you, when you meet your former schoolmates, you do not want a dinner, you want a sleepover. Yeah. Because that's who we are. And because that's who we are, we will, if you are the first one to make some income, or you're making a better income, there will be a couple of other people who tend to depend on you one way or the other. Looking at the generations, sometimes it's not the fault of the people. If you look at the older people who've already retired, the social structure to help people retire was not very good. Yeah. And so, yes, I am on the farm, but I'm the farmer. The day I'm not able to farm, I'm stuck. I was working for this multinational. I was paying my 160 shillings to NSSF. The day I retired, the money I get cannot move me anywhere. And the structure was then like your employer was paternalistic. Everything from the employer. Housing from the employer. Transport from the employer. Maybe if you go slightly higher, they pay school fees for your children and all that. Now, that's gradually moving. But as it is gradually moving, we have that generation that needs to be taken care of. Exactly. Because they were not taken care of. Again, when we look at the informal setup, a lot of people don't put the infrastructure to support here and there. But going back to the question, The reality is, what are the numbers saying? And I know I have to laugh about that because we have this debate in our country now. What are the numbers saying?
Exactly.
And we are not agreeing on what the numbers are saying.
Yeah.
But that's reality. Numbers speak and numbers don't shy. They tell you the truth as it is. With the income we have, how many more people can we be able to support? Because if only this is what we can support, this is what we can support. And I think somebody asked that question the other time.
Yeah.
And I said, sometimes you look at it and say, do we all come down or do we leave a few people to come down? And the reality is sometimes we might have to drop a few people so that everything doesn't come down.
Yeah.
So if we are not able to support people with love and attention, we need to tell them, sorry, this is the only much we can afford for you. So that then we do not get, there's a chance of this one person bringing the income. They can be weighed down completely, and that weighing down can actually take away the income. Because if somebody is totally stressed, they are not able to work, the health will come in and they will actually not even be able to produce what they were producing. Exactly. That's why we must be able to take a balance and take care of the person who's bringing the income. Yeah. And so the truth is we must be real. We must be able to tell people, and we must help people to appreciate why we are not helping them. We are not ignoring them.
Yeah.
You know, you can't take your children out of school to support other people.
Sure.
Things can't work like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Home, as you're concluding, as you're giving your parting shot, kindly remind us about today's class.
So, we said securing and protecting your partner is actually the only way of securing yourself and your family. So we have to secure them, we have to protect them. And we've talked about many things. So, and this is where from where I am, understanding personal finance matters is the starting point. For both of you, whether whether you're both working or not working, that becomes an important place to start. And that is where I want to invite you to the Wealth Creation Masterclass. In fact, on 26th of May, we're actually starting a new cohort, season 50. And all we're saying is, if you can come, and come the two of you, or then if you're not both able to come, one comes now, the other one will come later, it's another day, you will actually be able to get the knowledge, you get the skills, you get the tools, so that you can actually be able to balance out the things that we have spoken about. But if you want to have a taster, we said you come in tonight. Tonight is sort of very, very narrowed, because we're just looking at how to sharpen the saw, how to better ourselves. We'll be able to look at records management. That's part of the thing. So we have 5 slots. I've actually just been told 5 slots. So if you put in your number, 0708-150-137, we'll be able to do that. If as a couple you think this debate is interesting and you'd actually want to come and have a sit down, we open to that. Again, on the same number, you can say, we need a sit down. 0708-150-137, so that we can be able to do that. If you run a couples group, I know there are many young couples groups in churches. Yeah, we will be open to come and have a discussion, so that then people can be able to help. Let's remember what Prophet Hosea told us. My people get lost because they don't have the knowledge. But we must move it because they don't seek it. Now we need to seek it.
Exactly.
Yes.
And my dear listener, the other way you can also seek it is getting a copy of this beautiful book that has been authored by Mr. Wahome, Wallet Words. All right? In as far as this conversation is concerned, my dear listener, you cannot be as deliberate as Mr. Wahome puts it this morning if you don't know your personality, how you relate with money. There is a reason as to why this point number 1 that Mr. Wahome has begun with this morning holds a lot of weight. Those people who keep others in the dark. All right? Not that sometimes they are intentionally doing it, but it is their personality that is screaming loudly, my dear listener. So that is why I'm calling upon you this morning. If you haven't gotten a copy of the Wallet Words, my dear listener, a lot of information is in that book. Do it. Drop that request on this number, 0708-150-137. That is the number. Or you can visit the Nuria Bookshop. They can actually, you can order online, and you can get a copy so that you can understand yourself and how you're relating with the money. But most importantly, take up these five slots so that you can get to know how you can sharpen the soul. 0708-150-137. Thank you so much, Mr. Home, for your time this morning. Looking forward to having you again next week.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, our listener. And what do we do after this? Action.
Exactly.
Action.
All right, action. And that is exactly where we leave it as at now. Up next is news headlines, and we're going to do this again tomorrow, God willing. Have a good day.
The Catholic Radio for All.